Hello all, welcome to the Mio on MMA podcast. One day late because, let's face it, World Cup Canada was last night. And I went to a viewing party because, well, we spoke to Qatar. And I wasn't going to miss, one of the rare chances a Canadian ever has to watch our team win internationally on the biggest stage in soccer. Because we're not good at soccer. So, congratulations, Jonathan, David, and the boys. You got the job done. And we do have a game left against Switzerland. If we can do well against Switzerland, maybe, just maybe, we can get out of the group stages. Actually, there's a fairly decent chance we get out of the group stages because we drew with Bosnia. Anyways, UFC Vegas 119. Let's get on to it. This is an okay card because for an Apex card, it's one of the few times where there's not a lot of fighters that I don't look at and go, why are you in the UFC? There's one. We'll talk about him in a bit. Two. There are two. And aside from that, it's not bad. The only thing I will say is that the co-main event between Ion Cutelaba and Navajo Sterling leaves me a little bit underfulfilled. It's not a bad booking, to be clear. It's a good test fight for Navajo Sterling, who is a pretty big prospect. That being said, as a co-main event, I think it does leave something to be desired. So, not the greatest main card in the world, not the greatest co-main event in the world, but it's the Apex. It's got a good main event. We're pretty much ahead of the curve at that. So let's quickly talk about betting because we got to give the betting spew. I bet on fights. I'm giving you information you can use for betting. I'm breaking down things. I'm talking about what I'm going to bet on. I'm talking about betting odds. That being said, betting on MMA is a chaotic, unreliable venture. You should not be betting what you can't afford to lose. Keep it low. Keep it fun, and you'll have a good time. Go big, you'll be one of those guys on Twitter saying, my God, I lost 20 grand on an MMA fight, and everyone's going, you're an idiot. That's how that works. So, main event, Manel Kape versus Kyoji Horiguchi. Massive deal in the flyweight division. Rematch of a fight that happened in 2017. It's a rematch that makes all the sense in the world because it's been 9 years. It's not one of these, hey, we're going to rematch you in 6 months' time. Nothing's changed. And we're hoping that Sean O'Malley has learned something. No. This is a solid, perfectly acceptable rematch. And the only thing I have against it is that Horiguchi is a guy who I really want to see get a title shot. And I think he's going to lose. And I think at 35 years old, that knocks him away from the title shot. And the thing is that with the rate Joshua Van has been fighting and wants to fight, they really could have just got a title shot in, but it just feels like they're not interested in pushing him. And they signed him apparently as a favor to Mike Thomas Brown. So there's an anti-Horiguchi sentiment in the upper levels of the UFC, and I think that's the only reason we're here. So I don't like that part. But the rematch 9 years out gives Kape a chance to avenge a loss, and we can see how he's developed and done because Horiguchi is, getting slower. He's 35 now. He was 26 when they fought the first time. So there is a certain level of, difference, certain level of regression and everything. But it's a chance for Kape to avenge that against a not shot version of Horiguchi. So that's good. Why do I think that Kape is going to win this fight? Well, if you watch the first fight, and I have 3 times in prepping for this, you realize that Kape is just better than he used to be, essentially. In that first fight, he was falling over on kicks and making massive mistakes as a wrestler. And don't get me wrong, he's still capable of those same massive mistakes because he is a head case and a dumbass. But they're more controlled now. They're rarer now. He's just better. It's not a fundamentally different fighter, but he's better. The pressure footwork is better. The striking combinations are better. And the grappling is much better. Everything has just gotten better for him, improved, and become more of the fighter that we thought he could be when he fought Horiguchi the first time. And that is pretty impressive and why I do have to pick him here. Now, is there a pathway for Horiguchi to win? Absolutely. He could out-wrestle Kape. He could do what he did last time. He's a very good wrestler, very locked down grappler, very solid in those regards. But the problem is that his predominant thing is to stay at a range that you find uncomfortable, but Kape didn't particularly find uncomfortable. Blitz in. Kape has good timing, good power, good counters, and he has good footwork to pin Horiguchi down. So like I have to go with Horiguchi. I'm going to go by a probably relatively late TKO, just because it's a 5-round fight. I don't see it going the distance. And Kape getting the job done. And then probably fighting Joshua Van for the title next. Depends obviously on where Pantoja's at in his recovery. But that'd be a fun fight too. So I mean, it leads to good places. It's just, I don't know. I do have a deep dislike for Manel Kape. And it's just because he is a jackass, essentially. And that's fine. Again, that's fine. It's MMA. Fighters are jackasses. But I still get to cheer against them. I just have no interest in like seeing them gone or whatever, because he's a fun fighter. When sometimes there is such a thing as an absolutely really really bad Manel Kape fight, and it's about Manel Kape, not about the opponent. I mean, it's about the opponent in a certain way, but like if you go back and watch his fight with what's a great example? The Mokaev fight is not good despite all the stuff going on there. The David Dvorak fight is not super amazing. His fights with Mateusz Nicolau and Pantoja, by Pantoja's standards, actually one of the worst ones, but he has gotten better. Horiguchi is probably not really much sharper technically than he was, and he is physically reduced. And, you know, he did get hurt by Amir Albazi. Albazi is about as shot and worn as you can get. Yeah, I got to go with Kape. It's disappointing, but I do have to go with Kape. And the betting odds are in Kape's favor, minus 144 to minus 172, plus 128 to plus 138 on Horiguchi. Yeah, that's all. That all makes sense. That's honestly, that's even probably close. You could justify wider odds. You could justify up to about like minus 200 area, and it wouldn't be too bad. Jan Kudalaba, Navo Sterling. Like I said, I said some nasty things about this one as a co-main event, and I stand by them. But as a fight, it's not bad. Navajo Sterling is a guy who obviously has potential, but some of his fights also show problems, adjustment issues, not necessarily having the greatest killer instinct, not necessarily having the greatest momentum creator. Went to decision with Tukatokus. Enough said. But yeah, the 6'4" frame, the 79-inch reaches, the backing with city kickboxing, the technique is there, the ideas are all there, and it's just at 28 years old, him being able to apply that consistently and viciously, because this is 205 and you need to be vicious every time out, as opposed to just in spurts during fights. And Kudalaba is a guy who's going to run right into that. He is pathologically aggressive, pathologically loves to wrestle, and the opportunities to hit him really, really hard are going to be there for Navajo Sterling. So, can Kudalaba win? Yeah, I mean, there's elements of that Tokus fight that are concerning enough that like it's not a given. There are issues in the Hidalgo Bellato fight that also suggest problems as well. There are problems in the Ivan Urslan fight that even present issues. So, a win is on the table. Kudalaba also did just beat Omar Sy, who's a guy who should have beat him, and that was so bad people thought it was fixed. I'm on the fence. I definitely see the fixed allegations. I also just don't have faith that Omar Sy was able to handle any kind of adversity. So there's that problem. But if you look at the guys he's fought that have like a ability to remain somewhat calm at range and not just fall apart and utilize footwork, a jab, a little bit of range striking, they beat him. It's guys like Modestas Bukauskas, Felipe Lins, not considered, but because they're really tall, Kennedy Nzechukwu, Johnny Walker, and Ryan Spawn all have aspects of that as well. Dustin Jacoby, of course, Magomed Ankalaev, Glover Teixeira, etc. Like the guys he beats are guys who have to fight his game in order to be, or not necessarily his game, but fight at his range to be successful. Ivo Aslan, Ivan Urslan, Tanner Bozer, Devin Clark, classic example of that. Gadzi Muradad Antigulov. I'm probably butchering that name. I haven't talked about him in ages. Even like 2019 Khalil Roundtree, because Khalil Roundtree only relatively recently found his shit. Like his career turned around nicely from a guy who, I shit you not, was at 1.1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4-5 in the UFC with losses to Marcin Prachnio, Kudalaba, Johnny Walker, Tyson Pedro, and Andrew Sanchez. And it says all you need to say about it. And his best win was Paul Craig, or Gokhan Saki, if you want to get like weird. So yeah, I do have to go with Navo Sterling. He has the ability to define the fight in a way that Kudalaba generally loses. He has the athleticism. He has the range. He has the technique. I'm hoping he has the power to crack Kudalaba really hard, because Kudalaba is defensively lackluster. So I'm going with Sterling. I'm hoping for a TKO. We could get a decision. We could get a Kudalaba win. You never know. It's always a crapshoot when you're taking people who you're kind of hoping to develop into something consistent and actually applicable to MMA. We're gonna roll on here to the next fight here. Oh, betting odds. Navo Sterling's minus 240 to minus 350. Pardon me, minus 270 to minus 350. That's a little bit much. Plus 228 to plus 265 on Kudalaba. I don't think that's a big enough underdog to make me want to bet on Kudalaba. I think it's just wide enough that I don't want to bet on Sterling. I think is what that comes down to. I will probably be betting on Kape. I may also bet on Horiguchi. The main event may go different ways. Depends. Does the brain win or does the heart win? Moving on down the card here, we go to Christian Rodriguez versus Haider Emil. This is a pair of fighters on 2-fight losing skid. It is a really obvious issue for both. Rodriguez, it's unfortunately unfixable. He is small for the division at 145. He's 5'7". He is unathletic by the UFC standards. That's his problem, and I don't really know how to fix that. There are things wrong with his game too. Don't get me wrong. It's not like, oh, he's the perfect fighter if he was just bigger and more athletic. It's not that. It's just realistically his major problems are that he doesn't lead the dance well. He doesn't impose his game on the opponent particularly well. Those are things he can work on and improve, and will make him better. But like the major limitation will still. And then for Haider Emil, it's the fact that he's incredibly shallow. He is just I want to brawl. I want to be aggressive. I want to go in there. And he has all the athletic ability you could want for that. He's durable. He has exceptional cardio. He hits hard. But realistically, if you can just not be shocked and awed by what he's doing, you could probably win. And that's been a 50-50 proposition in the UFC, because what he does is very, very violent, very overwhelming. It's allowed him to beat Ji Young Kim. It's allowed him to beat Fernie Garcia. It's allowed him to beat Willem Gomes. And it's cost him getting knocked out by Jose Delgado and getting beaten by Jamal Emmers with a heavily wrestling-based performance. So it's essentially the typical Rodriguez fight that he can possibly win. A fighter that is more athletic than him, has more physical horsepower than him, but has a very limited, like actual depth to his game that Rodriguez can work through and make him exhausted and essentially do the Neil Magny thing down at 145. He's done this to Isaac Dolgarian. He's done this to Raul Rosas Jr. He's done this to Austin Bashi. He's done this to Cameron Simon. And he's not been able to do this against the veterans like Melchior Costa, Julian Rosa, Andre Fili. So, like maybe you could say Jonathan Pierce is a shallow guy, but not really. Like Jonathan Pierce's issue is that he doesn't really have a striking game, but he's a big guy with a lot of ideas on the ground, and he out-grappled him. So I'm going to go with Christian Rodriguez. He's the sharper boxer of the two. He's the sharper technical fighter everywhere, and he tends to get better as the fight goes on. He tends to have that depth of skill set, that depth of technique that allows him to take over. Now, could Haider Emil just run him over? Absolutely. It's on the table. He's done that to other people, and it can be done to Rodriguez. And in fact, even in his wins, and I expect this to start very badly for him, even in his wins over Bashi, Dolgarian, and so on, he has been run over. It's just he survives getting run over and then fights back and gets back into the fight. So I suspect Haider Emil to be the one to run out of skill set here, and that would be pretty much the answer. So Christian Rodriguez by decision is my pick. He's minus 186 to minus 205. That's bettable. And Haider Emil at plus 140 to plus 178 is worth a look if you think he is actually going to do the thing. It's just, I don't trust the gym that Emil comes from to make him anything, and he's also too old. He's 36 years old and still in this kind of rough prospect phase. Maybe that'll help him. Like, admittedly, the guys he's beaten, that Rodriguez has beaten, have also been young and maybe not having the mental resilience that maybe Emil does have. But then, I don't know. Dolgarian's also an older, rough guy, so I don't know. This looks like the fights that Rodriguez wins. We'll just leave it at that. Andre Lima versus Kevin Borjas. I am kind of sad about this fight because Kevin Borjas is a guy who I like as a fighter in my heart. I like the pressure. I like the counters. I like the power. I like the fact that he's making up for not being a particularly amazing athlete, but he's 1-5 in the UFC, and I kind of have to pick against him here because people who can outpunch him generally just win. And Andre Lima is a really good fighter. He's a superb athlete. He is excellent as a technical striker. He's a capable wrestler. He can weaponize grappling. He hits hard. And admittedly, in his last fight against Daniel Barres, which is very, very similar to this one, his usual lack of pace finally started to, kind of be shackled off. So, higher pace Andre Lima is like a scary, scary dude in this weight class. He has everything you'd want then. And he's only 27 years old. He can learn. He can become better. He's still theoretically not in his final form. So that's pretty scary. He's a very good clinch fighter. He is a good range fighter. He is a good pocket fighter. Like I said, he could wrestle quite well for a Muay Thai guy. His jiu-jitsu is solid as well. And his run in the UFC has been very, very impressive. There's a reason that he's gotten out to an 11-0 start to his career, and not against the greatest competition by UFC standards, but Daniel Barres, Felipe Dos Santos, Mitch Raposa, who we'll talk about later, and Igor Severino. The famous disqualification for biting fight is also there. It's just, I don't really know what I know what a Borjas win looks like here because he fights pretty much everyone the same way, but I don't really see how that style makes it happen. So Lima by TKO at some point is my pick. I could see it going to decision. It's, Lima got a lot of good shots in on Barres. It did not stop him with strikes. Picked up a late submission, which I don't think Borjas is quite as vulnerable to. But I do have to take him. TKO decision, like I said, these are both on the table. He is a minus 526 to minus 670 favorite. I can't bet on him at that wide of a line. Borjas plus 397 to plus 480. Like I said, the problem with Borjas is I just don't even really know how he gets to a win here, aside from a lucky shot. And Lima seems to be plenty durable and plenty good at absorbing damage. So I don't foresee it being a thing. Now, that being said, Lima still hasn't fought particularly great competition in the UFC, so maybe this is really just the moment where he kind of gets exposed, but I doubt it. Melsik Bagdasaryan versus Murtazali Magomedov. You got to go with Magomedov here. Bagdasaryan is really good at the game that he wants to play, which is edge of the pocket striking. He wants to exchange power shots with you, land good kicks, land good punches, and win at a relatively low pace. Not like a super low pace or anything, but he's not interested in getting into properly long fire exchanges. He wants kind of short exchanges where his power, his speed, his snappiness will make things happen. But he's not good when it comes to being pressured. Case in point, he even had issues with some very low level opposition in his UFC run. Like, if you remember that fight with Tucker Lutz, like that's a fight that by all means he should have absolutely dominated, and he did not. And he lost to Josh Kulabau. So it's not just that he lost horribly to Jean Silva. That's understandable. That's fine. It's the fact that his wins even are not especially great. And other than that, it's beating Denis Buzukja, who we know is not UFC caliber. Colin Anglin, one of the worst athletes you're going to see in the UFC 145 division, and like Bruno Souza. It's not great. And I haven't said a lot about Magomedov. This is his UFC debut, but his regional scene action is not bad. He's gone out there and he's dominated a level of competition that is enough to get you into the UFC. He's undefeated. He's got heavy hands. He's got a wrestling game. He's got submissions. He's aggressive, and I think that's the key thing, because he's just not going to let Bagdasaryan have the fight he wants. And again, if you take Bagdasaryan out of the fight that he wants to have, he has significant problems. So the pick is Magomedov. Yes, it's his debut. Yes, that could be a problem, but I have him by sub. He's minus 317 to minus 361, plus 245 to plus 300 on Bagdasaryan. Bagdasaryan is still very, very dangerous. He's very quick, very explosive, very powerful. It's just the game is built wrong. And I think it comes off of the fact that he really, 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 really can crushed to get to the UFC. And even by the standards of the UFC, was allowed to continue can crushing. Vinicius Oliveira, Andre Fili. This one's an interesting fight, and it's one where I have all the bad vibes with Oliveira right now. Oliveira is a juggernaut. He was a massive bantamweight, super big, strong, powerful, but like very, very, very messy. Like, he fought in a way that he knew he was messy and like absolutely was going to get in your face and maximize his physicality. So it worked. But he is very, very messy. And after losing to Mario Bautista, he's now come up to 145, which is not a great sign. I think that that's a better weight class for him. I think less of a weight cut is a good idea. But it has to be said that, like, generally speaking, when your response to a loss is to just go up in weight and not really sort out the technical issues or the limitations of your game or anything, it generally means you're not really identifying what's going wrong. And what's going wrong is not a lot, because Mario Bautista is a phenomenal fighter. But I also think that Andre Fili can do a lot of what Mario Bautista did. He's a persistent chain wrestler. He's a good boxer. He's got good reach at 5'11", 74-inch reach at 145. He's got a good range game. He varies it. He'll go to the body. He'll go to the head. He's actually probably one of the smartest strikers Team Alpha Male ever produced on their own. Like, Yadong Song's probably better, but, you know, was the product of the Chinese regional scene as well as Team Alpha Male. Fili is like one of the few like reasonably good strikers from Alpha Male, just Alpha Male period. I'm kind of tempted to take him. Like, don't get me wrong, his losses have looked bad, like real bad, but then he comes back and looks good and wins, and yeah, I don't know. I just have all the bad vibes about Oliveira. I have the bad vibes. The ingredients for him to like destroy are there. Fili is 35 years old. He is clearly falling off. There are some durability concerns. At 145, Oliveira should feel pretty fast. He still should feel pretty physical because he's 5'9", 72-inch reach. He's still big. Just like I said, like him making bantamweight was not a necessity. It was more of a how do you even do this? But I'm gonna go with Fili. I think it's just because he's the underdog. Maybe like if you reverse the odds here, Fili's plus 210 to plus 240. And minus 275 to minus 310 on Oliveira. Maybe if you reverse those odds, I'm like, the sucker in me goes for Oliveira because he has the upside. He's a 30-year-old dude in the prime of his physical life. And Fili just isn't. He's on the downside. But it's too messy. It's just too messy. The nerd in me is like, no, you got to go with the guy who has a structured, considered game. A guy who can kind of do what Mario Bautista did to Vinicius Oliveira, maybe to a lesser degree, but he's also bigger than Mario Bautista. So I'm going with Fili, but I do feel like I might end up regretting that pick. Which is, I mean, that's the case whenever you pick underdogs. I guess that's not terribly like there's a reason they're a dog. Every so often you get a dog that you're like, I don't know why you're the dog, but in this case, I get it. I understand it. I just have all the bad vibes with Oliveira. Bia Mosquito, Melissa Mullins. I don't have much to say about this. Mosquito is a phenomenal grappler for the division. She's not a good striker, but she's quick and powerful. Mullins is also not a good striker, and her wins generally come when she's able to out-grapple people. Bia Mosquito by sub. She is a prohibitive favorite at minus 549 to minus 650. I think that makes her one of the biggest favorites on the card. Is there anyone bigger? I guess Andre Lima is a bigger favorite. But that'd be it. So second biggest favorite on the card. I'm not going to upset the apple cart by going with Mullins because I don't even know what a Mullins win looks like. Like probably even worse than Kevin Borja. Mitch Raposo versus Alan Nascimento. I'm never really big on either of these guys, but I said when the UFC brought him in that I would never be picking Mitch Raposo to win. He hustles, and I have respect for him and all that, but he has a wrestle boxer game, very simple wrestle boxer game, that is backed up by nowhere near the athletic ability of 125. Just nowhere near it. Everything's fine. Technically, it's just, you don't have the physicality for me to think your takedowns work. You don't have the physicality to scare people off with your hands. You do have good hand speed, I will say that. He does have good hand speed. But he's facing Alan Nascimento, who's not a very good striker, but is 5'9", 69.5 inch reach. So 5 inches in reach and 4 inches in height difference. And is a phenomenal grappler. So Nascimento, assuming he doesn't botch the weight cut, as he has been known to do, should be able to utilize his reach to define this in a way that Raposo's boxing game doesn't get going. And on the ground, he should be able to hand Raposo his lunch money. Vis-a-vis, like, his own arm coming over his own shoulder to hand him the money. So Alan Nascimento's the pick. He's minus 175 to minus 225, plus 145 to plus 170 on Raposo. Feels about right. Nascimento has bad vibes, but he has all the tools to win this. Michael Aswell Jr. versus Gaston Bolaños is the contrast matchup of the card. You have Aswell, whose technique is good, his pace is good, he's hardworking, and does not have any of the athleticism you need to make his style pop. So, kind of Mitch Raposo 2.0, honestly. And you have Gaston Bolaños, who has all the wow factor, all the physical attributes you could want, and is just an absolute crap house of not knowing what the hell he's doing. At all. And it shows in his wins. The people Bolaños beats are people that are also unstructured, like Cortavius Romeus, or very, very underwhelming Aaron Phillips. But he loses to Marcus McGee, and to Quan Lee is particularly a problem. That Quan Lee loss, given that Quan Lee is not really doing all that well otherwise, he's lost to Zhao Long, he's lost to Santiago Luna, he's lost to Chris Gutierrez. It's aging particularly badly. And Bolaños is coming up to 145, which I don't think is necessarily a good idea, because while I don't think he's too small or anything, he's got the same reach as Aswell Jr., he's only an inch shorter. It's still going to lessen the fact that his game relies on just raw physicality more than anything else. So I'm going to go with Aswell by decision to just put a pace on him, put together a good combination boxing performance, pressure, maybe a little wrestling even in there. Just be the triumph of a process over raw athleticism. But he's also way too much of a favorite because he's minus 355 to minus 480. You people are crazy. And Bolaños is plus 295 to plus 350. Aswell should not be minus 400, minus 500 against anybody. Anybody on the planet. I'm including regional guys. He's that level of unimpressive athlete. Carol Hossa versus Luna Santos. Hossa's also a bad vibes fighter because there are moments in her wins and her losses where she does not appear to be enjoying fighting. And her fighting style requires that. It is a volume, aggressive, striker style, outwork you in the clinch sort of game that you have to really want to do. You have to be borderline fearless about it. And I don't think it's there. But it has been at times. So I don't know. Luna Santos I don't really like. She was a weight bully at 115, I think. And now she's up at 135. And she also, if I recall correctly, missed weight when she went up a weight class, which is kind of hilarious. Like, am I thinking about the right person? Yeah, she fought, she debuted in the UFC at flyweight against Juliana Miller. Then she went up to bantamweight, missed weight against Stephanie Egger. Went back down to 25 to beat up on Maria Agapova, which I'm fine with because Maria Agapova is a psycho. Lost to Casey O'Neill. Went up to 135 and has beaten Tainara Lisboa and Melissa Croden, which is not bad, but like those feel like worse versions of this fight. And as a result, I'm going to go with Hossa, but like I'm ready for her to at any time just like stop deciding that fighting is a thing for her altogether. And like Santos, as limited as she is, as lackluster of a striker as she is, how much of a just pure clinch bully she is, she wants to be in there. Like, she is the bully. She is hungry for that power dynamic to play out. Carol Hoss is minus 113 to minus 125. Minus 105 to plus 108 on Santos. I am going with Hossa by decision. Leon Shabazian, Levon Chikeli. Don't know why Shabazian is here. He's 6'4" and he's massive, but he's lost to Kyle Crutchmer, Goto Yamuchi. No, pardon, wrong one. That's who Chikeli's lost to. He's lost to Gabe Green, Phil Rowe, Ryan Loader, and we know that they're not UFC caliber really. They're like bottom of the barrel guys. I'm not interested in seeing a 30-year-old dude try to develop in the UFC. Like he's got a good guillotine. I'll give him that. He's got size, which can make people panic. I'll give him that. But anytime that has not worked, he has not won. His wins are cans. Chokeli was a solid Bellator guy. His losses to Kyle Crutchberg, Goto Yamuchi, and Lorenz Larkin. There you go. We're all very, very, very understandable. He's not a world beater by any means, but he's got pop in his hands. He wrestles well. He stays composed. And he's not likely to freak out when he sees 6'4" in front of him. So, Chokeli, TKO, he's the favorite. Minus 350 to minus 400. Plus 260 to plus 300 on Leon Shabazian. Maybe a shade too wide, but yeah, I don't. It's not that I don't see how Shabazian wins, it's how I'm not interested. Not interested at all what he can do in the UFC. Shane Collins versus Otari Tanzalovi. Tanzalovi lost on Contender Series to Josiah Musasa in a fight where Musasa looked good and everything, and he's a phenomenal athlete, but maybe did show that Otari is not necessarily the most deep or most well-constructed fighter, but he is aggressive, he's persistent, he likes to clinch, he likes to wrestle, he likes to put people down. And I trust his durability, too, because he took some hellacious shots in that fight. Shane Collins, I don't really know what to make of him. Like, he's a new signing. People are like, shiny prospect. Blah, 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 blah. He's 26 years old. He's 5'10". He's very big for the division. But I don't know. Like, he's got good power. He's willing to strike, willing to wrestle and grapple a little bit with like competency. It looks good, but there's no spark. He's just beating regional guys. There's nothing wrong with that, but it means I'm not excited. He's not necessarily from a gym that I think really stands out either, unless his Tapology gym association is just wrong. So I'm gonna go with Tanzalovi, just because he's the underdog. We'll go with him by decision. I'm not gonna be surprised if Collins is way too much for him, but plus 163 to plus 181. Let's go. Minus 200 to minus 230 on Collins. I am looking forward to be wrong, because if Collins is a cool, solid addition to 145, that's only good. I'll take a loss if that's the case. But that's about it. So, UFC Vegas 119 picks for you there. I'll see you after the fights, guys. And go Canada at the World Cup! Also cheering for a couple other countries. Bosnia gets some love. Croatia gets some love. Because that's where my grandparents are from. Not really anything else. The other stuff didn't make it. So, here's hoping. None of those are going to win. But, hey, we'll cheer. We'll cheer on. Let's go. Let's go. If you want my actual, like, who I'm cheering to win, probably Morocco. That would be very cool. Check out the link tree down below. It's got Blue Sky on it now. Enjoy the video gaming stuff, the MMA stuff, the social media stuff, and I'm out.